EduVerse PD podcast, brought to you by ProEd Education Solutions, your on-the-go professional development. Welcome to the world's first education podcast hosted by AI. In today's episode, our dynamic AI co-hosts, Andy and Liz, are tackling a crucial topic, giving feedback to students. They'll be unpacking key insights from the article, Bringing Joy Back to Education, The Art of Impactful Feedback by Roz Weitzman, featured in EduVerse Newsletter, Issue 13. This article is packed with practical techniques to make feedback more meaningful and engaging. So, without further ado, let's hand it over to Andy and Liz to kick off the conversation.
Welcome back to EduVerse PD, everybody. We're going to be talking about something that can make a real difference for our students.
Oh, absolutely. It's always great to uncover those little nuggets of wisdom, those aha moments that can really help us be better teachers, right?
Exactly. And I'm Andy.
I'm Liz.
And we are so glad you're here with us on this journey. Today, we're diving into an article about bringing joy back into ESL teaching through the power of impactful feedback. You know, one thing I really appreciated about this article is how it reminds us that feedback should be so much more than just, correcting errors.
It's true. It's easy to fall into that trap, right? Just marking things right or wrong.
Yeah. Exactly. But Weitzman, she describes feedback as like a GPS, guiding students towards improvement. It's not just about pointing out what's wrong. It's about showing them the way forward.
I like that analogy, the GPS, because it really is about guiding them, not just telling them where they went wrong.
Right. It's about helping them navigate those tricky parts of the learning process.
Exactly. And one thing she really emphasizes is using feedback to help build resilience in students, which I think is so important.
Absolutely. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. She talks about how feedback can help students view setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities for growth, as part of the learning process.
Yeah, that's huge. Because it's so easy for students to get discouraged when they make mistakes.
It is, especially when they're first starting out or when they're tackling something new. But if we can help them see those mistakes as opportunities to learn and grow,
you can totally change their whole perspective.
Exactly. And that's where impactful feedback comes in.
I'm curious, does she give any specific examples of how to do that? How to give feedback that builds resilience?
She does. She has a ton of practical advice in this article. Like, she talks about this thing called the Kodak moment technique. Have you heard of that?
The Kodak moment technique. No, I haven't. What is that?
Okay, so it's basically about capturing and praising those small moments of brilliance in a student's work. Just like, snapping a photograph of a special moment. You want to capture and highlight those little wins.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Because we often focus so much on what needs fixing, right? But celebrating those small victories, that can make a huge difference for a student's motivation.
Exactly. And speaking of motivation, she also talks about the importance of praise, like genuine, specific praise, not just saying good job, but really pointing out what they did well.
Yeah, that's so important because when students feel seen and appreciated for their efforts, it makes them want to keep trying.
Exactly. And when it comes to delivering constructive criticism, which, let's be honest, is sometimes necessary.
Oh, yeah, sometimes you got to do it.
She suggests using the sandwich technique. Have you ever heard of that one?
The feedback sandwich. Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. You put the constructive criticism in between two pieces of positive reinforcement.
Exactly. So it's like, hey, I love how you use descriptive language in this paragraph. Now let's see if we can work on making the connection between these two ideas a bit clearer. I know you've got this.
It's like a little feedback burrito. I love it.
Right. It's all about finding that balance.
It is, acknowledging their strengths while also guiding them towards improvement.
And speaking of balance, another technique she talks about is the glow and grow method.
Okay, the glow and grow method. I like that. Tell me more about that one.
So it's basically a visual way to think about feedback. The glow represents the student's strengths, what's shining brightly in their work.
Okay, I like that. And then the grow.
The grow focuses on areas for improvement. So where they can, blossom even further.
I see. So it's like you appreciate the beautiful parts of their work while also helping them see where they can nurture their skills even more?
Exactly. It's like tending a garden. You want to appreciate the blooms while also making sure the roots are strong.
That's a great analogy.
And just like a garden, every student is unique. Their needs are going to be different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best feedback comes from their peers, right?
Oh, 100%. And Weitzman talks about this too. She calls it peer feedback partnerships.
I love incorporating peer feedback in my classroom. It's amazing to see the growth that can happen when students give and receive feedback from each other.
It's so true. It helps them develop their communication skills, their critical thinking skills.
And it creates this really supportive learning environment where everyone feels comfortable sharing their ideas and giving constructive criticism.
Like they're all in this together, which is exactly what we want, right?
Exactly. Now, Weitzman gets really creative with some of her other suggestions. Have you ever heard of using feedback magnets?
Feedback magnets. No, tell me more about that. I'm intrigued.
So picture this. You've got these little magnets with positive affirmations, areas for improvement, or reminders about key concepts. After you've given a student verbal or written feedback, you give them a magnet that reflects that feedback. Then they get to take it home and put it on their fridge.
Oh, I love that idea. That's brilliant.
Right. And not only does it keep the feedback top of mind for the student, but it also gives parents a window into their child's progress.
It's like a little conversation starter. Hey, Mom, look what my teacher gave me.
Exactly. It opens up a whole new line of communication. And who doesn't love a good fridge magnet, right?
Right. It's a fun, engaging way to make feedback more tangible, more long-lasting.
And Weitzman doesn't stop there. She also talks about incorporating audio feedback messages.
Audio feedback messages, like you record yourself giving feedback.
Exactly. It's like leaving a personalized voicemail for your students about their work.
Oh, that's interesting. So instead of just writing comments on their papers, we could actually talk to them about it.
Yes. And she talks about how this can be really helpful for students who learn best through auditory input. And it also allows us to convey tone and nuance more effectively than we sometimes can in writing,
That makes a lot of sense. Sometimes it's hard to get your tone across in writing, and I can see how hearing their teacher's voice could be really helpful for some students.
Absolutely. And then her final suggestion is encouraging students to keep a growth mindset journal.
A growth mindset journal? What's that?
It's basically a dedicated space for students to reflect on their learning. They can celebrate their achievements, jot down feedback, brainstorm strategies for improvement.
So it's like their own personal learning log.
Exactly. And it gives them a sense of ownership over their learning journey.
I like that because sometimes I feel like students see feedback as something we give them, not something we do together. This kind of makes more collaborative.
I think so too. And, we've been talking a lot about the practical techniques, which are incredibly valuable. But Weitzman also goes deeper into some of the broader benefits of impactful feedback, like how it empowers students, builds resilience, and fosters collaboration in the classroom.
She does talk about those long-term benefits, doesn't she? It's not just about getting a better grade on the next test. It's about equipping them with skills and mindsets that will help them throughout their lives.
Exactly. And I thought it was really interesting how she talked about how impactful feedback can actually shift the entire dynamic in the classroom.
Oh, so?
It becomes less about a top-down evaluation and more of a two-way conversation, a partnership.
Oh, I see. So it's not just us telling them what they need to do, but it's working with them to figure out how to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that builds trust and mutual respect because students feel heard and valued in the process.
And when students feel respected, they're more likely to take ownership of their learning, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things that really struck me about this article was that Weitzman made it clear that these principles of impactful feedback, they aren't just for ESL classrooms. They apply to all subjects.
I was just thinking that because whether you're teaching math, science, history, or whatever, the power of feedback is universal.
It really is. It's about guiding students towards their full potential no matter what they're learning.
Exactly. And Weitzman, she says it so beautifully in her article. She says, together we can create an educational experience that not only imparts knowledge, but also ignites passion, celebrates growth, and fosters a lifelong love for learning.
That's a great quote. And it really captures the essence of what we've been talking about today.
It does. It's about creating that kind of environment where students feel supported and empowered to grow.
I love that. And it all starts with how we give and receive feedback.
It's true. It's such a simple thing, but it can make a world of difference for our students.
Absolutely. It's about illuminating the path forward together.
I like that.
It's a partnership, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. And, as we've been talking about all these different techniques, it's got me thinking about my own teaching,
Oh, absolutely. Getting those wheels turning, reflecting on our own practices.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy to get stuck in our ways. But this article is such a good reminder that there are always new things to try, new ways to approach feedback and make it more meaningful.
Totally. So I'm curious, out of all the techniques that we talked about, which one really resonated with you the most? What are you going to try in your own classroom?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the emphasis on celebrating those Kodak moments. It's easy to get caught up in what needs fixing, but taking that time to acknowledge those little steps forward.
It can make a world of difference for those students, right?
Oh, absolutely. It really boosts their confidence. It makes them feel good about their progress. And that's what it's all about, right? Helping them see their own potential. What about you? Which one stuck out to you?
You know, it's funny you should say that because those Kodak moments really resonated with me too. It's such a simple shift in perspective, but so powerful.
It is. It really is. Instead of just zeroing in on the mistakes, we're looking for those glimmers of brilliance.
Exactly. And when we do that, we create a more positive and encouraging learning environment for everyone.
For sure. It's like that saying, what you focus on expands. If we're constantly looking for mistakes, that's all we'll see. But if we're searching for those moments of brilliance, those aha moments, we'll start to notice them everywhere. And that can be so impactful for our students' growth.
It's true. And I think that's a perfect note to end on, right? So, listeners, as you head back to your classrooms this week, we have a little challenge for you. Think about one student who you know has so much potential, but they might be struggling a bit. Which technique are you going to try to help spark that joy and confidence in them?
Yes. How could you use feedback to help them see their own brilliance?
It's a journey, this whole feedback thing, but it's so worth it when we see those light bulb moments, right?
Absolutely. Until next time, keep those feedback conversations flowing and keep nurturing that love of learning in your classrooms.
See you next time.
What a fantastic discussion, Andy and Liz. Thanks for breaking down those impactful strategies for giving meaningful feedback. If you want to read Roz Weitzman's full article, Bringing Joy Back to Education, The Art of Impactful Feedback, head over to EduVerse Newsletter, Issue 13. You can download it at www.proed.com.vn/eduverse. And remember, if you've got insights, tips, or stories to share, EduVerse is always looking for new contributors. Visit our website and submit your article to get your ideas in front of a global community of educators. Until next time, keep inspiring. Well, we hope you enjoy our episode today, and we can't wait to welcome you again in our next episode on EduVerse PD Podcast, brought to you by ProEd Education Solutions.